Hey, Braves fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel are bringing you Braves baseball all season long. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I'll be bringing you Braves baseball play-by-play for the Braves fans out there, for all of Braves country. So pull up an armchair and join us for Braves country baseball, first pitch to last pitch, Tuesday and Friday nights, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel.
I'm not audible. If I'm audible, I'll use Omaha! Red Polly! Blue Poncho! Dilly! Rambo! Give me Kershaw here, Kershaw!
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Stop, Japan! Richmond, New York! Richmond, Florida! Sally, Buffalo! Check! Hey, Short Ox! Ludo Raiders! Omaha! Come out!
This portion of the show is being brought to you by The Best Things in Life, which are still free with minimum purchase at participating dealers.
Hey, baseball fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel is going to bring you the baseball game of the week on Thursday nights. Tones Ariola and Mac McGee bringing you the action, the biggest game of the week in all of Major League Baseball. That's Thursday nights. This baseball season, the MLB game of the week, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first and Barrows did the same, a pale-like silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to hope which springs eternal in the human breast. They thought, if only Casey could but get a whack at that, we'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn proceeded, as did Jimmy Blake, and the former was a hoodoo, while the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude, grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all. And Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second and Flynn a hugging third. Then from 5,000 throats and more, there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley. It rattled in the dell. It pounded on the mountain and recoiled upon the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile lit Casey's face. And when responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat. No stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance flashed in Casey's eyes. A sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. That ain't my style, said Casey. Strike one, the umpire said. From the benches black with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone on the stand, and it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game go on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once the dun sphere flew, but Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said strike two. "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and echo answered fraud. But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in the favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out. Hey Braves fans, the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel are bringing you Braves baseball all season long. Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I'll be bringing you Braves baseball play-by-play for the Braves fans out there, for all of Braves country. So pull up an armchair and join us for Braves country baseball, first pitch to last pitch, Tuesday and Friday nights, right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
On the Armchair Quarterbacks. Justin Waller and Mac McGee are back at it 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern every Friday evening right here on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel and your local CBS Sports affiliates. We're talking the NFL, Major League Baseball, and Southern football, so grab you a cold one. It's finally Friday on the Armchair Quarterbacks. 6 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. Waller and McGee getting you ready for your sports weekend.
Armchair.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Armchair.
YouTube Live.
CBS Sports Radio Station.
Station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station? It's everything.
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays on CBS Radio, YouTube Live, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Good afternoon, Mr. Joey Ariola.
Good afternoon, Mac. I don't know much, but I know one thing. The Cubs let up 20 runs today, 20 to the Cincinnati Reds. They're dead. Season's over. The Cubs are dead.
Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I don't know much, but I know one thing. I think the Mets might be in trouble. I know that sounds strange. They're 7 games up. They're cruising, blah, blah, blah. They've got a rough stretch. I'll pull it up in a minute.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Yeah, howdy, hi, and happy Thursday to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. I'm Mac McGee sitting alongside the brothers Areola, Joey, and Tones. Tones, how are you this evening?
Great, my friend. It's a great day. It's another day in sports. As Joey said, Cubs let up 20 runs, and we've seen Andrelton Simmons pitch. So to this point, it's been an eventful day, to say the least. But I'm always excited. We got a lot of
heater?
He had a 45-mile-an-hour heater.
Oh, really? I'd like to see him just let it rip.
Right?
Yeah, that's about all he did. But nonetheless, excited to talk sports with the boys again.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's still a fairly big night in sports. You got a lot of good baseball matchups. You've got the Rangers are tipping off here, or I guess the puck drops is as they say, here in about 30 minutes or so, I believe. And there is NBA action tonight, if you want to call it that. I think it's just a foregone conclusion that this series is over. The Mavericks trail 3-1. They won the last game at home. That's nice, all in well, but I think they're going to find out they should have just, kicked the can and not got on the plane, and we'll see you next year. I don't think it's going to be particularly close tonight. I saw the line is like 6.5. That seems extremely low in a closeout game for a team like the look. I know that they're not all previous champions, but the previous champion Golden State Warriors, it just seems pretty low. I think they're going to go in and annihilate them. Conversely, I think tomorrow night's game is going to be a good game. I don't think Miami's going to go out without a fight. But do y'all see it any differently?
When I look at the first one and talking about tonight's game, I don't see it too differently. Dallas, they were on their home court, usually get a game somewhere. A team's not going to play perfect all the time. I think the Warriors will close it out tonight. And what I hope is a good game, because we haven't got many in the NBA playoffs yet this far. And then Celtics, I do think, close it out tomorrow. Jimmy Butler, it looked hobbled yesterday and pretty bad. He did not have that, extra burst. And to me, if he's not at full strength, we see when they have to rely on the bench without Hero. I mean, guys like Kyle Lowry and Strauss were combined for 15 yesterday. That didn't work out too well. I think Boston, as long as you have Brown and Tatum, you're going to keep flying, and I just don't think they can be stopped. So I see both series closing out by tomorrow evening.
What say you, Tones?
Yeah, the Warriors have all the star power in the world. The Mavericks are a one-man band with Luka Doncic. Nothing to take away from him, but he needs a lot more help in order to compete with the Golden State Warriors. I think the Warriors win with ease tonight. I know we haven't gotten a lot of good NBA playoff games to this point.
No, hasn't it been just so damn disappointing that even like last night was considered a great game?
Yeah.
What was it? 13 points was the final score, I believe.
90-8 or 93-80, I believe.
Okay, so 13 points. And that was considered one of the better games of the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, other than the only thing that really jumps out at me when I think of a great game in this year's playoffs was the Celtics' last second buzzer beater against the Nets at the very beginning of that series. I don't remember if that was game 1 or game 2, but you remember it was that spinning layup that Tatum hit right at the buzzer. Other than that, like every game, every series has been a snore. And I do think it's improved to a degree, because the biggest thing that has changed this year over years past is we didn't know who was going to be left standing, right? Golden State was not the favorite in the West when this thing got going. And Boston and Miami, a lot of folks really were thinking Milwaukee, if not the Nets. I believe the Nets were the actually betting favorite. But when it's all said and done, I mean, it's been a boring ass playoffs for the NBA.
Yeah, they started off with a couple good series, or at least games and series, and then the last 3 to 4 weeks have been bad. But I'm going with the Warriors in blowout fashion tonight. And then in terms of tomorrow, I'm thinking Boston does indeed close out Miami. Miami just hasn't looked right necessarily since Jimmy Butler went down on Saturday. He's looked hobbled, and Boston has looked really good since then. I think it was a wake-up call. Now they're up 3-2. They're at home tomorrow, and they're really good in historic elimination games at home. For the opposing team, that is, they're not facing elimination. So I think Boston ends it tomorrow, and I think Golden State ends it tonight, and I think we got a fun NBA Finals on our hands.
Yeah, I don't. What really is disappointing about the whole thing is that you had some momentum and you had some pretty good ratings at the very beginning of the playoffs, and now they're starting to drop off, and they're going to drop off because it just hasn't been that compelling. And I don't know how you fix it, but you've got to get better games. You've got to get closer ball games. You just do. Hockey, NHL's not having that issue, right? You never have that issue in the Major League Baseball playoffs. I mean, it just doesn't happen. They're always nail biters. And you usually get pretty good games in the NFL. You will have a blowout here. Yeah. But usually they're pretty good. Basketball, the NBA has got to fix that. College football has got to fix it. Because if you can't get people excited to watch a product and then they sit down after a hard day of work, they sit down, they crack open a beer, and like they're not even 2 beers in. They're like, dude, what am I watching here? Last night was the best game I've seen in a while, and it was because both teams played like crap was the reason. Normally what's been happening is one team like Boston goes on the road after playing a great game at home, and they play like junk, and the home team just blows them out. Well, the Heat couldn't find a 3-pointer to save their life.
And with the whole thing, just real quick with the NBA, it has been weird because, we're not getting a lot of like a blowout bad series. Really, there's, you get your game sixes. We've had, a couple of game sevens in the first round, but when every game's a blowout, like you said, the average Joe who's coming home and just wants to sit down and watch a game, if it's a second quarter and you're already falling out of love with the thing, how do you keep people interested?
It's just a snore. And, hopefully the NBA Finals is better. Look, the best thing that could happen to the NBA is for Luka Doncic to win tonight and force the game. I guess that would be a game 6.
Yep.
And it would go back to Dallas. I believe that would be Saturday night because I know that if Boston loses, they'll play Sunday. So I believe that'll be Saturday night.
That's correct. Correct. Yes.
So if it's a Saturday night game with Luka having a chance to force a game 7, that really gives you some intrigue. It really does. There's a lot of people who are big Luka Doncic's fans. And then of course, Golden State has had their bandwagon fan base for 7-8 years by now. You can't find many Golden State Warrior fans that have any idea who Run TMC is, but they're very aware of who Steph Curry is. If you could get that and you could force at least a game 6, that would help you big time. I don't think the Miami Boston series has to go to a game 7. I think you're going to get a good viewership tomorrow night because it's the beginning of Memorial Day weekend. So a lot of people are going to be looking for something to watch. I do find it odd that we're playing these games on Friday night. It's just traditionally not a good television night. If it were me, I would have skipped today and I would have had Boston and Miami play Saturday night and have Luka and company, if there's a game, play Sunday night. That's how I would have built it. And then if there's a game 7, it would have been Tuesday, but you could have started the next series on Thursday. And anyways,
we've seen the NHL skip a night too. The Lightning skipped Saturday night due to going up against other things, and then they played back-to-back Sunday, Monday.
Well, that was asinine. When they skipped the first night, they shouldn't have played back-to-backs. I
agree. They shouldn't have played.
That came down to that Kane Brown idiot that wouldn't reschedule his
concert.
And first of all, who the hell is Kane Brown? Second of all, when I first saw the clipping, the news story, I thought they misspelled Kanye West. Kane Brown. I had to look it up and go, all right, I'm kind of familiar. I think I've seen him. Pretty sure he was in Publix the other day bagging groceries or something. I'm like, to prevent. I would have been like, no. Here's the deal. We're gonna have the concert. I don't know why you couldn't have just played the game earlier in the day, right? Push this concert back a little further. Say, hey, you're going to go on at 9, as opposed to it was probably 8:00 start with the concert, and we're going to start this thing. We're going to start the NHL playoff game around, I don't know, 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and that would have given plenty of time for the ice to, et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, that was asinine. Didn't really matter because when it's all said and done, the Florida Panthers were frauds, but you still shouldn't have had 2 teams, because what if that was a close series and you're asking teams to go play back to back? It's a disadvantage for both sides.
Yeah, and you could see that in the second game of the series. Lightning and Panthers both started sluggish. They looked sluggish, so that's a very good point.
So yeah, I just but anyways, moving on from that, as far as the NHL playoffs are concerned, I have been kind of paying attention to the Rangers series. It's the only one that's really compelled me because the Tampa Bay Florida series, which I was planning on watching, was such a snooze fest. I was like, what's the point of even paying attention to this? So I'll watch Tampa Bay in the next round and look forward to that. But other than that, I'm just, the only reason why I'm even paying attention to the Rangers series is because I listen to New York radio every morning and they've been talking about it. So I'm kind of interested just from their perspective of it, but I don't really care, right? I don't really care who wins the game, but I do think it would be good for hockey for that series to go 7 games, no matter who wins it, just because New York's involved. They were complaining this morning. There were callers complaining this morning about the national broadcast, and the guys were joking around. They said, well, you can tell that this is the first time a New York team's really been involved because in a while, because no one calls to complain to them about hockey national broadcasts.
Hey-o.
Right. Now, granted, they just changed their broadcasting this year, but I still thought it was a funny line.
Well, and I think, overall with the hockey playoffs to this point so far, I think you have the intrigue of the teams here. Like you have a New York squad, you have a couple Canadian teams, which Edmonton's up 3-1. Not Calgary, not looking too good.
I can't wrap my head around that series. I don't even care who wins.
Right. To me, as long as it's been a while since the Canadian teams won. So you get one of them in the mix, you get the defending champs who've won 2 in a row now. So they're going for 3. If the Rangers could move on, and then out of St. Louis, Colorado, I don't think there's a big swing and who makes it there, but
the National Hockey League wants the New York Rangers against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got to have that.
What about Canadian presence at all? Would that be, since there's a decent amount of teams?
I think they'd like to see the Avalanche in there, and that's mainly just because of the star power. They've got one of the best players in hockey. And not to mention, man, let's be honest, the Avalanche have a good fan base as well. Denver's a pretty good sized city. Yeah. And if you get the Avalanche involved, they're just close enough to the West Coast to draw in some West Coast viewers as well. Right. No one really cares. I hate to break it to people, but no one really cares about the St. Louis Blues. Okay. It was a great story when they won it a few years ago. Then when they went worst to first, like it felt like overnight. Right. But other than that, it's like, that Cinderella story's gone. Now it would just be nobody in the NHL office wants to see St. Louis versus Tampa Bay, and that's just a fact. They would be mortified if it was St. Louis versus Carolina, because Tampa Bay doesn't have a very good fan base. They do locally and centrally, and the ones that live in that area go out and support the team. There's no doubt about it, but they don't get good television ratings locally, and they get terrible television ratings nationally. I can just tell you from experience living here in Florida, you go into a sports bar in, we'll just say in the middle of February, and there's not a whole lot going on. There's not a lot of people asking to put the Tampa Bay Lightning on. They're just not. Like it's not their sport down here. And so that's why, it's a cool story because they're going for 3, but it would be a cooler story if it was a bigger fan base. And that's not all their fault. They just haven't been around long enough. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that, I'll wear it. They're in the state of Florida, and Florida, they basically just care about football. and they care about their baseball teams, but most of their baseball teams are not in Florida.
Yeah, the thing is, before Brady, though, I would definitely say it was a Lightning town, and it's still, that's the crazy thing. Even with Brady in Tampa, you could put straws in a hat on who the team of that town is. I'd still lean Lightning right now in terms of Tampa.
As far as what fandom?
Fandom in Tampa.
Oh, no.
Yes, absolutely. Every game is sold out with Tampa fans.
I get that, but as far as television ratings, and
I'm just speaking locally in Tampa. There is a huge fan base.
You got to realize something too. Locally in Tampa, it's apples and oranges compared to the Buccaneers stadium and the Lightning stadium. I mean, you're talking about the difference between selling out. It's about 3.5 times the size of the Lightning stadium.
Right. But when you look at the games, Lightning games are 90% Lightning fans. I would say Bucks games are probably a good 50-50, 60-40 right now.
Well, some of that has to do with the fact that Tampa is one of those transplant cities, and you get a lot of folks that are, they're from Chicago, or they're from, I'll pick a different city because I don't want to play like I'm picking on y'all or something. They're from, we'll just say Las Vegas. Well, that's a stupid one. Well, they're from San Francisco, and they're working in Tampa, and the 49ers come to town.
Right.
So, but the Buccaneers have a pretty strong fan base throughout the state as far as television goes. I can tell you here, more people care about a Buccaneers football game than they do a Jaguars football game. Typically, especially the old heads, those of us who saw the Jaguars come in. The younger kids, they'll eventually be flipped to Jag fans, but the older ones will not.
And that makes sense, I guess, in terms of franchise and history and whatnot.
The Dolphin fandom that's here in Florida. And a lot of that had to do with Dan Marino, and then before that, it was the undefeated team in the 70s. But but I will say this: the Lightning fan base, the ones that are fans, what they remind me of is soccer fans. The ones that are into it love it, but the ones that are into it are farther between as opposed to the football fan in the state.
That makes sense.
Engine right now, before they've killed it, we'll see what happens over the next several years. Before they killed it, college football is king in the state of Florida, right? But I think a lot of that might go by the wayside because of all these NIL deals. And people can hate that statement if they want to. I don't really give a damn. I know it's true. And the biggest thing that I heard growing up, whether I was in Florida, in Tennessee, or several other states I lived in, if they were a college football fan, what was the first thing they added me with when I asked them if they watched the NFL too? Because I always watched everything. No, man, I watch college football because they play for the love of the game. They play with their heart. It was always one of those two catchphrases. And I'd always roll my eye. If you think they're playing for free, you've lost your brain. But now we know they're not playing for free, and it's legal. And I'm telling you, we're not far away. I called it back when they first started talking about this. I remember Forbes and I having this conversation on air 3-4 years ago. I know it was before the pandemic. And I told him then, and I'm telling you, it's still heading that direction. We're going to have a work stoppage in college sports in the very near future. And when that happens, it is going to absolutely disintegrate fan bases everywhere. Yeah, that's the one thing you never thought you'd have to deal with. It's coming. It is coming. You try to tell me some kid who didn't get as much money on an NIL deal as his teammate is going to be okay with him living pretty and him getting like life-altering money. And meanwhile, by the way, I barely got all I got was gift certificates to Applebee's, right?
Well, and don't you think even on teams alone, I listen to Indiana, like you said, New York, I did listen to the Indiana market every morning, and, they're talking about how one of their top players has a good NIL deal. Don't you think those other players on the team, it's like, Trace Jackson Davis on Indiana, if you don't have a good year and step up this year, don't you think you'll get a little chatter in the locker room? And, hey, you're getting paid. You should probably carry your weight. Like, don't you think that can create some frictions between guys who are getting nothing? It's not just
that, but okay, let's say I'm just going to call it what it is. I didn't see how it was projected, but someone released money that players have already received in college football for the NIL deals. And the quarterback, his name's escaping me, from Alabama.
Bryce Young.
Yeah, Bryce Young. I knew it was Bryce, but for some reason I thought Young was wrong. I had it in my head. Anyways, $3.1 million. I know he signed that beginning deal for like $1 million. Well, somehow he got an extra 3.1. I don't know if it's 2 for this year, if that's what, but anyways, the point is, what happens when his offensive lineman says, "What about me, jackass?" And he just goes, "You know what? I'm not going to work that hard because I've got to worry about my health because the draft's coming up. And I really don't give a damn if your leg gets blown up because, hey, by the way, you're already getting paid."
Bryce Young makes
there's
more.
There's going to be infighting. There's going to be work stoppages. I don't know if you can call it a strike, but there's going to be a work. There's going to be like half of a team refuse to play because the other half of the team is getting all the money. And
Bryce Young already makes more money than Jalen Hurts.
And I'm just going to call it the WNBA clause. Wait till a women's basketball team somewhere in America gets mad that their NIL deals are not competitive with Bryce Young and whoever the hell else in college football.
Just show them the ratings and then they could figure out why.
They never do, man. They never do. Because if they did, it wouldn't be pulling on our heartstrings about, well, Brittany Griner never would have been over in Russia if she was getting paid more.
Yeah.
All right. Well, be good enough to be in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I know to tell you. Or maybe use your time at Baylor to get a degree to make more money than what you do dribbling a basketball. Because you're not getting paid well because nobody wants to watch it. This is still a capitalistic market in America. You know why we don't get paid to do this show? Nobody watches it. You know what I mean?
If millions of people are watching, we're getting an NIL.
5 million views on YouTube and whatnot, we'd be the next big thing. You know, someone would be adding us with the kind of money that, you know, some of these guys get. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it really is the equivalent of us saying, well, this isn't right because we should get as much money as, what's your boy's name? The Colts
McAfee.
Yeah,
McAfee. Yeah.
It's the equivalent of us arguing, oh, well, why don't we get their kind of money? Huh? I rolled out of bed just like he did today. What? Huh?
Tom Brady got $100 million, and we've been announcing for years. What's going on? Where's our money?
Exactly. Yeah. And
Tommy, just give us one. Just
and
one.
I'm not even saying that any of the people that are getting paid are necessarily better than any of the people sitting here right now. But they got found somehow, right? A lot of it had to do with their connections. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And let's be honest, everyone we just mentioned is an ex-player, right? But my point is that there's going to be a complaint from the volleyball team that they're not getting a big enough NIL deal as the star running back that's coming in. I'm a senior volleyball player that has won the national championship and an two-time All-American, and you're going to give all this money to a freshman running back? That's ridiculous.
You're not wrong there.
Well, just wait. I mean, players are going to make more than coach. I don't know. In college, it's just crazy to me that, like, you know, you have some of these players and some of these teams, coaches getting pennies, and the quarterbacks, the money, brother.
Bryce Young is already making more than Jalen Hurts. Make that make sense. That's ridiculous. One starting at college and one starting in the NFL.
I forget his name now. The receiver that transferred from Pittsburgh to Southern Cal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Okay. He's going to make more money this year, according to reports, than what his quarterback, who just got drafted, who's the only quarterback drafted in the first round of the National Football League.
That's ridiculous.
The only good thing that comes out of this, if you're a big college sports fan, is they're going to see some guys stick around longer.
Oh, yeah.
You're not.
What's his name? Jordan Addison.
Go, hey, man, I got to go get paid because they're having really good seasons. The oil money in Texas A&M, yeah, I said it, Jimbo, at me. The oil money in Texas A&M is going to say, hey, why don't you stay here and make more money as opposed to getting drafted in the first round by the Texans right down the road and, getting less. And I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think you're going to start seeing that.
I'm not even mad about them making the money, but I think they did a terrible job of designing how it was going to get distributed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Wild West. There's no law to it.
And the transfer portal was a downfall of it all.
Yeah. That was some of it. I mean, really,
especially in basketball, obviously.
What does it always come down to? California screwed it all up.
Sounds about right.
Because it started in California. And as soon as California came out and said that they were going to start letting players get paid, there was nothing you could do about it, right? Because you had to go chase them if you're the SEC, ACC, Big Ten. You can't just let teams in California. It wasn't the rest of the teams in the Pac-12 had to follow suit. You couldn't just let Southern Cal and USC and Stanford to be able to get players to come in. And I remember at the time, and once again, I'll mention Forbes again. He did not believe me. I said, if you don't think this is going to change college football, you're crazy. And he was convinced that no one would go and play for Southern Cal or USC or UCLA or Stanford if they could play in the mighty SEC. I said, dude, no one's going to give a damn about the SEC if I'm going to give you $1 million to come play over, and we'll just say San Diego State, right? No one cares.
Yeah, the school gets thrown out of the window at that point. These kids want money. A lot of them need money going into college, and that's what they're looking for. And at the end of the day, when people are drafting, they don't really, if you have the talent, they don't care where you went to school. So I agree with you.
Here's the irony. They started it. They ruined college football, and they're going to be the ones that lose. And the reason why I say that is if you're going to get, we'll say $6 million over a course of a career, which is where this is heading for Bryce Young, right? You'd rather be in Alabama than California. And that's just facts. State taxes are going to get you in California. I don't even know if, I think Alabama does have state tax, but their cost of living is a lot cheaper in Alabama. Right now. I mean, people are trying to get the hell out of California, but, and so on and so forth. And so eventually teams like, Florida and Florida State and Miami could benefit because there's no state tax here. That's the next thing we'll see. What do you give it? 5 years, maybe 10, when all of a sudden you're going to start seeing indictments on your favorite college football player. You're going to go, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Oh, he didn't pay his taxes. Ooh, because they feel like this is just handed to them. They do, but they're not thinking, because they're thinking, oh well, this is just a gift. But the IRS is going to be the one that comes in and regulates the whole damn thing.
Yeah, look at the NFL back in the day. I can remember even just rookie contracts like a Jamarcus Russell, the #1 overall pick, who got like $38 million guarantee. He found a way to blow it. Obviously not the same for everybody, but when you give a young person, is what I'm saying, that much money, sometimes they don't realize what all comes with it at the end of the day.
And I love the fact that Nick Saban went back at, Jimbo Fisher went back at Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. I love that. Because Saban was sitting there crying the blues, and he called out A&M. You're calling them out for doing what Alabama has done for decades.
Illegally.
Exactly. It's the whole reason why you went to Alabama, is because you couldn't win in the NFL, and you knew that Alabama was going to outpay everybody.
I remember Julio Jones and Marcel Darius posted Instagram pictures of new cars magically right when they got to Alabama back in the day.
Remember when Todd Gurley at the University of Georgia got raked over the coals and suspended because he put his game-worn jersey on eBay to make a few $100s?
Terrible.
That ain't been that long ago.
Yeah, I remember when it was as little as trying to put cream cheese on their bagel got in trouble. It was like a college basketball player somewhere. The rule, that was only 4 or 5 years ago.
Isn't that how a couple national championships got revoked? Or is that a little different with
Southern Cal? Yeah, Southern Cal 2000.
Reggie Bush.
Matt Leinart and the boys, yep.
Southern Cal's 2004 national championship got revoked because they gave him a house, and I believe they gave him money too, but they could prove the house. And so they took his Heisman and they took the national championship. And that one was actually a bigger deal than a lot of people realize, because there's only 2 teams in the history of college football that have gone wire to wire, meaning you start in the AP poll number 1 on the preseason poll, right? You stay number 1 every single week and you win the national championship, meaning so you're number 1 all year long, never dropped out of it. And Southern Cal was the second team to do it, and it got revoked, and so that ended that. So now that the 1999 FSU team is the only team to ever do it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it just tells you how. I mean, I expect that's one that Bowden has. And I'm like, someone's eventually going to tie that thing. I mean, I'm a little surprised it didn't happen in the Saban era already. To be number 1. The key is you got to get ranked number 1 to start the season and be worthy of that.
Yeah.
Because the problem is in college football for years, there was no playoffs. It's a lot easier to win a national championship now. There was no playoffs. So you lose one game, a lot of times it would knock you out of the damn number 1 spot, and you never got a chance to even play for the national championship.
And to me, that's why being in the SEC is kind of key, because, you always have a tough schedule. So if you get the number 1, at least you're playing good teams already. Some of these conferences who don't have bottom feeders, you lose the game and you have 8 games in a row against crap teams. You're way more screwed than an SEC team. Now you could say SEC, they beat up on each other more. It probably works both ways, but still.
I've never bought that, SEC fans, man, they live in their own world. They really do. They never see the forest for the trees. They will sit there and tell you, SEC is the strongest conference, no matter what. Ridiculous. We all got to play these teams. Like, no, it's there's usually 2 or 3 really good teams in the SEC. And I mean really good. There's also usually about 6 or 7 trash teams in the SEC. And then I think what makes the difference of the SEC and other leagues is the middle teams are usually better than most. Now, there are years where the Big Ten's better. It just is. There's been a couple of other years where you hit the bowl season, you're like, damn, we were sleeping on the Pac-12. What the hell is that about? Right? But anytime the SEC goes over in the bowl season, all you'll hear is, oh, they just start playing hard enough. They don't really care.
The excuse.
It doesn't matter what happens, dude. An SEC fan's always got an excuse. I mean, it will always be that way till the day we die.
Yep. And football in particular, it's ridiculous.
And living in Southeastern Conference football territory and not being an SEC head, I can't tell you the stupid arguments I've had over the years, but they are some dumb ones with some real, top-notch dumbasses.
Is it better to have alcohol in your body for those, or probably not so much?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wish I could go back to some of them years later. I told you so. There's so many arguments.
Got him.
Right. And it's funny because I'd always hear, when I lived in Tennessee, there was always this the Tennessee fan base would say, you don't know what it's like playing in the SEC, da-da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, you don't know what it's like to have an actual rival. You don't have an actual rival. We got at least 2 of them every year. And that was before the Clemson thing became a thing. Now we've got 3 arch rivals every year. We have 3 teams that thoroughly want to kick our ass every year. And it's a big deal to them to beat Florida State. Miami, Florida, and Clemson.
Vanderbilt.
They still want to beat us, right?
Vanderbilt, Tennessee.
Vanderbilt, that's your rivalry. Get the hell out of here. Kentucky. They'll try to tell you Alabama. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you talk to any Alabama fan, they care much more, and I mean leaps and bounds more, about the Iron Bowl in Auburn than they will ever care about if they beat Rocky Top.
Absolutely.
You ask someone who's in their 70s, yeah, man, they thought it was a big deal beating Tennessee, mainly because there was that stretch of 40 years where Alabama and Auburn didn't even play. So Alabama's key rival became Tennessee. but once that got washed away, but they've been forgotten. And now, where would you rank Alabama's give a crap about beating Tennessee at? It's low.
Well, and I wanted to ask you this too. So Alabama,
Auburn,
sorry, go ahead.
LSU, right? Now A&M after Jimbo shot his mouth off, but Auburn, LSU, and then of course Georgia, because Georgia's become a rivalry. What were we gonna say? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I cut you off there. If Bama, whenever Nick Saban decides to hang it up, do you think that automatically makes a shift, or Alabama could still be the same Alabama, or automatically that shift into somebody else? When I say shift, I mean the ultimate, place where over the past decade, Alabama's in the playoff every single time. Do you think that changes when they lose Nick Saban, or do you think Alabama just continues to be Alabama?
Man, Alabama's been Alabama as long as I've known for Alabama.
All the way back to Bear Bryant, right?
They had that dry spell when they were
early 2000s.
Yeah, or I'm trying to think of when it started. I'd say late 90s to early 2000s. And it might have spanned almost 10 years, but that's it. Outside of that, Alabama's always been and now it's a point of the fact that their facilities are top notch. Mm-hmm. Now, whoever takes over for Saban, that person will probably get fired within like 3 years, right? Because if they don't win the national championship, they'll just. But Alabama's not going to drop off the face of the earth.
You never want to be someone that follows a legend. You want to be the person that follows a follower to the legend.
Yeah, look, a lot of people at Florida State hate Jimbo Fisher for doing what he did at Florida State was actually pretty remarkable. He followed in Bobby Bowden's footsteps. A lot of people would put him as the greatest college coach of all time. And he won a national championship there just a couple of years later. You don't see that because of what you said. I mean, you're right. Normally the pressure, Perkins that followed Bear Bryant, they couldn't get rid of him fast enough. And then Gene Stallings came in and won the national championship. But Gene Stallings, he had to be one of their boys, had to be, and that was the thing, and that's where Alabama fell into and that's how they fell off for a bit, because they kept hiring guys that had to be what they called, he's got to be an Alabama man, he's got to be an Alabama man. They finally went outside their inner circle and hired Saban, and the rest is history. I've never thought you have to hire someone who. It's good to hire someone that played at your school, that if they're really good coach, because they're less chance of them wanting to leave. But man, a guy can coach or a guy can't coach. And now it's going to be a guy can raise money for NIL funds or he can't. And that's going to be its own separate division.
Yeah, there might have to be an NIL fundraiser.
Well, yeah, like the way that Major League Baseball now has just an entire analytic department for most teams, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have an NIL department where they're basically just going to be salesmen going out raising money so that we can go buy the next kid.
Boosters on steroids.
Yeah. It's like, man, we really missed out, because if this would have happened in the late 80s, early 90s, dude, Florida State would have won like 19 national championships in a row. Because Burt Reynolds was at the height of his fandom and had money to burn. Bobby Bowden was a hell of a salesman to anybody that would listen. That would have been an unstoppable force there. And Margaret was throwing money at Florida State left and right. Really wish we would have cheated just a little harder. But anyway,
took a hurricane, Miami Hurricane. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, exactly. Well, 2 Live Crew money is a joke compared to what Burt Reynolds could have brought in from Hollywood. But anyways, we'll get on. We got sidetracked off of this pretty quickly.
That's a good combo, though.
It is. Probably gonna have to dive into some baseball talk. I don't know if we'll get into NFL. Well, you know what? Real quick, Colin Kaepernick working out with the Raiders. Convince me this isn't just a damn circus and a joke.
And Well, I'll try to play devil's advocate as I got to actually take a call here in a few minutes that was unexpected. So let me give my thought on this here really quickly. If I had to try to convince you to the other side, I would say, hey, you know what? I can't do it. I don't think he's going to put more butts in the seats. I don't think that's your answer there. I think for a backup quarterback position, you're getting too much eyes on it. You're going to get too many, no matter how people say about it, they're going to feel good and bad at the same time, people on that team. And number three, is he even worth, is his talent even good anymore? He hasn't played in the NFL in a while. And the last time he did, he was a backup quarterback who played at a third string level in some appearances. So I don't really know where is the benefit besides maybe making a little bit of stand in some people's eyes in America. That's all I got. I don't got much more.
It's been 6 seasons since he's played in the NFL, and he'll be 35 in November.
Yeah, we see how hard it is missing 1 season in the NFL, let alone 6 seasons. Randy Moss skipped the season, never looked the same. A lot of players that had way more talent than Colin Kaepernick skipped a lot less time and just came back, and it was hard for them to rebound. And Kaepernick's a guy who won't be a starting quarterback again, at least to start the year. He might get lucky if a couple injuries occur, if a couple backups are needed in a blowout or something like that, but he's not going to get the chance to start, and he doesn't deserve the chance to start. And if they're going to pay him that good of money to be a backup quarterback to cause distractions and whatnot, I'm not sure if it's the right move for a franchise. So let's be honest with you. I think it's nothing more than a publicity stunt, but I think this one isn't a good one.
Do you think it's to the point of a publicity stunt that they would actually sign him?
I think that the Raiders might sign him, and then, he might be either a practice squad guy or he might be the last release before or at the end of the preseason. I think the Raiders are trying to right their wrongs. I know they gave Gruden the short end of the stick and all that drama. I honestly think they're just clickbait kings at this point, and they want to try and quote unquote do the PC thing, even though it's not a good football move, and I think it's going to backfire quickly on Vegas, I should say. Now that they're in Vegas, that's even going to be another thing. How does Kaepernick adjust to Las Vegas? We've seen players before, they weren't able to adjust, and Kaepernick, that'd be a whole new lifestyle in Vegas.
So we all know Derek Carr's the man, obviously, just got paid. There's no question about that. But the rest of their quarterbacks, Chase Garbers, I'm not even familiar with him. It says, how many years has he played?
I want to say he was a rookie last year, perhaps, or 2 years ago.
Okay. Sorry, I got like 3 screens pulled up, so I can't see the whole thing. But Chase Garbers, who I'm not familiar with. Jarrett Stidham, I remember him because he played at Auburn and was drafted by the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe these 3 years ago. And then Nick Mullins. Is he going to beat out Nick Mullins and Jared Stidham?
I that's the thing. I mean, I think he could beat out Stidham for sure. Mullins, another former San Fran starting quarterback, he has a lot more recent experience in the NFL, and he's a lot more equipped right now to win a football game. Now, Kaepernick, could he get into shape? Sure, but by the time he's ready, it's going to be 8 to 16 weeks in the football season, and it's not like he's going to be getting regular season snaps. So yeah, he might get some in the preseason, but by the time he's really clicking on all cylinders,
what's he willing to sign for? Like, that's my other thing, because he's made so much money by extorting the NFL. What's he going to be willing to sign for?
And I remember he laughed at the fact, I forget if it was Denver, Seattle, but they were about to offer him like $1 million a year or something. And he pretty much said that was embarrassing to him. So,
it's embarrassing that they would bring him on, to be honest with you.
I agree. He's lucky that he'd even be offered that. League minimum is more up his range at this point. But I mean, we've seen it with Kaepernick time and time again. It was Michigan a couple months ago throwing with Harbaugh. Now it's flirting with the Raiders. I could see him saying this opportunity isn't good enough for some reason and trying to make it all about him.
It's been longer ago than I realized, because I know it was before the pandemic. But remember when he was supposed to have this big tryout, workout, pro day kind of thing where all the scouts were supposed to come in. It was in Atlanta. You remember that?
Yep.
And then last minute, he changed the venue because he didn't want to be at the Falcon Stadium, because he felt like that, that he had to be at some random high school stadium because, it wasn't conducive to his whatever. You never wanted to be signed.
Mm-hmm.
Never wanted to be judged, essentially. You're going to get out there and they're going to go, ugh, and then you're going to go, oh, and then here we're going to be again, right?
I remember that too.
I don't think I don't think he gets signed.
Yeah, I remember the whole stadium shenanigans, and he was like, "Why aren't people here?" And it's like, bro, it was like half hour before the start time, and
it was on the other side of the planet, and he been in Atlanta, dude. The traffic, I guarantee you, most of them went, screw this, I'm getting back on the plane, I'm going home.
Absolutely.
Clown show. I think 4 of the 22 scouts that were at the stadium actually went over there and watched them. I'm sure the Falcons were one of them, because they were, they probably had someone close by saying, man, just send someone over there. But that's forced. I'll be shocked if he shows up to the damn thing. But if they sign him, and they sign him to more than league minimum or much more than that for a veteran, they're fools. But the Raiders have done stupid things in the past.
Honestly, the only logical place for him on any NFL roster at this point, and he might not deem it good enough, is literally the practice squad. So then he could try and get into shape, into tune. I mean, like you said, he's been out of the NFL for 6 years. Even if he is throwing okay at pro days or, for scouts.
I can't think of one NFL team, Tones, that I would say he would be the starting quarterback at. Can you?
Nope, that's what I'm saying. And it's hard to even think of teams that he'd be the direct backup for
right.
On some of them.
I mean, maybe somewhere like Jacksonville,
right?
But that would just be a publicity stunt.
Exactly. I mean,
that would be because you're not trying to develop Trevor Lawrence if you put a circus behind him.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be honest, teams like Tampa Bay, there's absolutely no room for him in the quarterback room.
No, he doesn't go to Tampa Bay.
No, I'm saying there's some teams out there where he can't even sniff, just because even if he wanted to try, he's not up to the level of talent
he wouldn't even start in Miami.
Even Tennessee now, he'd be lucky to be the third quarterback. They have Willis and Tannehill. It's just hard for him to find a spot at this point. He's been out of the league for too long, and if he thinks he's going to get anything more than a third string shot or practice squad opportunity, he's going to fool himself. And that's why I'm kind of in the mindset with you. This could be another one of those things where then he cries to the public, I wasn't going to get a fair share at it. I was going to be practice squad. Well, yes, you haven't played in the NFL. It smells like to
me that he's trying to get another contract by Nike or somebody to just do another commercial,
I agree. I think he's trying to backdoor the pity party.
Because he's probably also hoping that, okay, let's say now the one thing that he could benefit from with the way the new CBA was designed a while back, he gets signed by the Raiders. There could be a lot of morons that go out and buy his jersey.
Right.
And he would get a cut of that. I believe they still have that set up that way, but
like anyway, Tebow last year.
I knew that I was never going to give him a fair shake, because I think he's an absolute clown show, but I wanted to get y'all's take on it, because I was like, sometimes I don't see things the way everyone else sees them, and maybe I'm, being overly critical, but okay. So
I'm right on the same page.
We move on real quick. I did want to hit this up with Major League Baseball. Braves Phillies are about to start here in a second, but I want to tackle a couple things. Mainly in the National League East, the New York Mets. And the New York Mets are cruising right now, right? And you're loving the fact they've got the biggest lead in Major League Baseball in their division. And they just finished a series. I thought they did very well playing St. Louis, Colorado, and San Francisco, and only losing 4 of what was that, 11 games.
Yeah, 11. I'm counting 11.
Yeah. So they only lost 7-4. I actually thought they were. I thought they were going to struggle in Colorado. I thought they would lose a few there. They only lost the 1 game, and I really thought that the Cardinals would take advantage of them. But best case scenario, Scherzer comes back somewhere around the 4th of July, past probably close to the All-Star break. We'll just call it the All-Star break because you know how teams are. They'll go, we're not going to rush him back. We'll just go to the All-Star break because we don't want to ramp him up and ramp him down, right? I don't think that, from everything I've read, I don't believe we're going to see DeGrom until August at the earliest. If we see him, I mean, this guy's constantly injured. So putting that aside, Tyler McGill, I do expect him to be back somewhere middle to late June. Okay. But that's their 3 best pitchers, not counting Chris Bassett, who's had some clunkers, but other than that's been pretty good. That's their 3 best pitchers in their rotation. Now they've got a big lead. There's no doubt about it. They're off today, kind of catch their breath after that road trip. But listen to this. They're going to play Philly the next 3 nights this weekend. It's in New York, so definitely an advantage for them. And then they're going to be 3 games at home against Washington. And Washington's terrible. And the Mets normally play Washington really well. And so I kind of, they might even sweep the Nats, but I kind of expect they're going to win 4 of those 6 games. If you're chasing down the Mets, you'd be thrilled if they go 3-3 over the next 6 games, right?
Absolutely.
But after that, this is where the rubber is going to meet the road. They're not going to have those pitchers I just mentioned. They're going to go to 4 games to play the Dodgers in Los Angeles. 4 of them. Then they're going to go 3 games to the San Diego Padres, who are playing really good baseball right now. Then they're going to go 3 more games. So that is a 10-game road trip in California to play the Angels, who are playing really good baseball. People have been paying attention to that. The Angels are good this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the pitching matchup will be, but if they run into Ohtani, it could be a problem. Then they'll come home and you think, okay, we get a breather. Not really, because you're going to come home, you're going to play the Milwaukee Brewers, who are one of the best teams in baseball. You're going to play the Marlins, who have been feisty. Okay. And then they're going to go back out on the road and play Houston and Miami and come home and play Houston again. And that will take you to the end of June. And we'll just cut it off there because we can't talk about it all night.
That is a really tough schedule. And I mean, on top of that too, Taiwan Walker is always injured. Cookie Carrasco is always injured. This is a team that's built on injured players. Especially
Sorry, I was
pitching.
counting in my head. So once you get past the Nationals series, that's 24 games. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That they're going to be without DeGrom, without Scherzer, and probably get McGill halfway back. But you're right. Carrasco's been injured. Now, some of it's been because he had leukemia, but he's also had just baseball injuries. 24 game stretch that I just called out there. What do you think their record is just in that 24 game stretch?
If I had to say in that 24 game, I mean, that's a lot of road travel. That's a lot of cross country travel. I'd probably put them right around the 9-win mark for that 24 game stretch.
Yeah. I was thinking 10-14. If you're a Mets fan, I'd sign up for it right now.
Yeah, because that's a grueling trip.
Because you're going to have such a big lead starting that stretch. If you can go 10-14, I don't know how far you'll be in first place, but you'll be in first place. Because
you'll be in first.
Because the Braves offense is scuffling once again. Acuna's not in the game. They're being cautious about him, and Rosario probably not back till after the All-Star break is everything that I've seen on him. So no matter how you look at it, I think a lot of Braves fans and Phillies fans have kind of given up on the hope that the division's still in play. The division is still very much in play, I guess, is what my point is to the entire thing.
Yeah, it's very much so in play, especially for teams like the Phillies and Braves, who have built roster is formidable for a postseason run. That division will be a lot closer than people think by the time the year's over. And let's be honest, the Mets aren't really that deep. They have a lot of big names, but you look at the bottom of their lineup, they got Travis Jankowski, Dominic Smith barely plays anymore. Their catching position is a revolving door. The Mets have a couple holes. It's not like they're flawless, and they do this every year. They have one or two great months of baseball. Then throughout the year, they taper off a little bit.
And, you know, the other interesting thing about that, as I look at their July schedule, so when they come home from that, they're going to get a little bit of a breather because they're going to play Texas and Cincinnati. But they'll be home for 3 games, you know, against Texas. And then before the All-Star break, 10 of their next 14 games are on the road. Now, I know Chicago and Cincinnati have not been playing very good baseball. Still, man, when you're on the road, you're on the road in Major League Baseball. It's difficult to win. It's a different lifestyle. You're not sleeping in your same bed, et cetera, yada, yada, yada. That could be an interesting thing where you're going to play 3 at Cincinnati. It's really strange. They're going to come home to play Miami for 4 and then go back out on the road for 7. I don't even understand that part. But anyways, they'll finish a 7-game series. You and your brother might want to think about taking advantage of one of those. They're going to play a 7-game series at the Cubs right before the All-Star break. And
we're thinking about it.
You might get to see one of those. Scherzer might be back. I don't know. But regardless, the Mets are a good team. I'm not discounting it. They are a very good team. But I do feel like that their offense is playing above. And I do think that the actual pitching is going to be a question mark.
Yeah, me and my father were actually already looking at the Mets series, so we're probably absolutely going to do something like that, and that would be a fun time. That'd be a good time. So definitely have some good calls to make.
All right, well, let's go ahead and run out of here. Birthdays real quick.
It's your birthday today. What does that mean? I
guess I did that backwards. I should have done it the other way. Anyways, too late now. It's been a while since I've done it. Happy birthday. I'm sure you got nice things to say about this young man. He is 41 years young today. Ben Zobrist. I'm sure you're familiar with his work. Of course, played for the Chicago Cubs, was on the championship team. I don't know why, but I always remember the clip of him running in from the outfield. I don't remember if it was left field, center field, wherever he was, but running in and celebrating. That and Rizzo sticking the ball in his back pocket are the 2 things that I always remember from those from that championship. Also, happy birthday. I cannot believe this. He is 75 years old today. Darrell Evans. Can't believe he's that old. For people who don't, I know you wouldn't have seen him play, but Darrell Evans was a great outfielder. Played is more known for the Boston Red Sox than anything else, but did play for the Atlanta Braves as well. And you say happy birthday to them. Also, our condolences to the family of Ray Liotta, man. That hit me like a ton of bricks today. Mm-hmm. There's a lot behind that story, but that just hit me like a ton of bricks today. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know he was 67. I don't know why, but Ray Liotta always seemed youthful. I thought he was like late 50s, maybe early 60s.
Just a true legend, and it's one of those things where, you know, the older you get, the more you appreciate growing up with these people, because they're truly impactful and they're great people, and before you know it, reality hits and sometimes they're gone too soon. So it hit the Twitter world with the hammer over the head, and we're gonna just keep giving our condolences.
Yeah. The short of it was, when I was younger, much younger, when I would get to having a couple of beers, people referred to me as that being my alter ego after I've had a few beers. It's too long of a story to get into, but it's
one day we'll have to talk about that one.
Yeah. I think this is a good place as any to end the show. Any last thoughts?
Well, what else is new? German Marquez is getting rocked. He's already allowed 4 earned runs in a third of the inning for the Colorado Rockies. But other than that, I'm just looking for
fantasy or something. Is all your
Yeah, I got him in one of my leagues. Sadly, I'm looking at the box
guys,
score.
man, where I want to choke them out, but I'm like, well, I can't drop him because there's nothing better out there.
Yeah, exactly, and he fits in that category. But I'm just thankful to be talking sports with the fellas. I know, some things change on Thursday, but we're going to be talking sports. It doesn't matter what day it is, and we're going to have a good time. So I look forward to a great summer full of talking sports, baseball, maybe a couple other things up our sleeves and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Programming note. We are going to be moving this show to Tuesday nights. It just works better with everyone's schedule. That's the short of it. So it'll still be same time, 6:30 Eastern, to probably, depending on first pitch, it'll be about 35 minute show, something like that. Because then I have to get ready for Braves baseball. But we will probably, assuming everything goes right, I've got a lot of balls in the air as far as work and whatnot. But if everything goes as planned, we should be back doing the show on Thursdays going into Thursday night football.
Right.
That's a much farther away than it's a lot closer than you realize, but in all the moving parts I have going on in my life right now, it's a long way as far as being able to plan. But that's the game plan essentially, because we are planning on doing Thursday night football because people who don't have the Amazon Prime won't be able to get it, and those that want to sync up that don't want to listen to Kirk Herbstreit drone on. That's going to be an interesting one to me, putting a college football announcer in an NFL setting.
Mm-hmm.
Because now he'll get bailed out of the fact that he's got the great Al Michaels with him. But that'll be interesting to me. And I haven't seen, but I'm assuming he's staying with ESPN and doing like the game day stuff and all that, right?
Yep, he is.
Okay. I figured this was just an extra bonus in his pocket, but
and I think Al Michaels is going to do 1 or 2 games for NBC as well.
Oh, is he?
I think 1 playoff game they said, and 1 other game or something like that. So he is a small part of NBC still in his contract. Nothing crazy, but handful of games.
One of them made some. Oh, never mind. That wasn't their deal. Okay, yeah, gotcha. Well, I mean that's cool. Look, I like Al Michaels, and I just hate that he went to Amazon because honestly, it's just something. I got a feeling they're going to do what Apple did to baseball and just put freaking goofy ass, stats and explosions all over the screen to try to, they used to call it Fox it up, but Fox doesn't really do that anymore. But I don't know if you remember, but Fox used to, they put a trailer on the hockey puck, had it glowing. This is probably close to 20 years ago. But anyways, all right, brother. Well, great job. We'll see you most likely Tuesday. The only thing that would mess that up is I do have to take I've got something going on for work that I've got to take an exam for, and I don't think it's Tuesday, but if it is, it could collide, but I believe it's not Tuesday. So enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
You too,
The
brother.
Carolina Panthers just scored a goal on the Rangers. So go watch that, or go watch I believe the Braves are actually on national TV tonight. I think they're on FS1 or something like that. Braves Phillies Wright versus Nola should be a good one.
And you got Yankees Rays as well. Just a lot of good matches.
Not me. I got blocked out. I was excited. I was like, dude, because normally I can't explain it, but normally they put this little icon that lets you know that game's gonna be blacked out ahead of time. And I had it geared up because I don't get to watch Tampa Bay Rays games period anymore.
Right.
I miss it, but the only way to get it is Bally, and I can't get Bally. And the person that I was using the Bally credentials with, it doesn't work anymore. And this happened about a year ago, and they had to go in and change something with their email or accept it. But anyways, they weren't catching when I was pitching, so I just let it go. But I miss watching the Rays games, and I see them come on. I'm like, sweet. No, the only way I'm going to get to see them is if they're playing on like ESPN. That's it. So what am I going to get to see, like 3 games a year? It's going to be really hard to stay a Tampa Bay Rays fan.
Yeah, they are blacked out a lot of the place. So I feel your pain though. On my MLB TV, for some reason, I can't see Reds games, even Cardinals games. Some weird locals are blacked out.
Well, they're doing you a favor not seeing Reds games right now.
They actually pay you to watch them.
Exactly. All right, brother. We'll go Braves and go Celtics tomorrow night. We'll see y'all Tuesday. Have a fun weekend. I assume that y'all are staying in town, right?
Yes, sir. I'm going to the Indy 500 on Sunday, though. So.
Sweet. I got a buddy that's going to be there.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I got invited last minute. I'm like, I can't pass that up. Once in a lifetime, you know.
Forbes is going with his wife. Forbes was on the show years ago. But anyways, I believe this is a bucket list thing. I believe he said that he'd never been before. So I wouldn't mind going. But I wouldn't go out of my way because I don't really care about racing that much.
That's kind of how I am. I lucked into a ticket and a ride. So I'm like, whatever. Opportunity's there. I'll take it.
Yeah, I had a buddy that went every year for years in Middle Tennessee. And every story I heard is that, they're pulling him out of the bushes. He was just getting slaughtered. And I'm like, well, that probably would have been me too if I was going at that age and I, going to open wheel racing. Like, you could probably get me interested in watching some NASCAR, but not that interested. But I'd be more likely to watch it. Open wheel racing, really?
Yeah. I agree with that.
WNBA is what it is to me. I always get pissed off during the fall when I turn on the TV and I'm trying to watch the pregame shows, like the fantasy shows, and they'll have open wheel racing over in freaking Monaco. They're just bleeding over, and they're like, "Well, we're not going to show it today until and you'll catch the damn thing like an hour and a half in." I'm like, ugh. Who's watching this?
Usually on the FS1s or CBS Sports of the world.
Exactly. All right. We'll see everyone tomorrow night. Justin and I will be here pregame, and I'll have the call for Braves Marlins. Man, I feel like we've played the Marlins 48 times in the last 3 games. We'll see you.
See you later.
Goodbye, sweetheart. It's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. The Armchair Quarterbacks bring you Braves Country Baseball every Tuesday and Friday night, play-by-play with Mac McGee, and the MLB Game of the Week every Thursday. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah,